Alright, hello boys and girls. Today you are going to be reading this passage called Nick's Tourette Syndrome. And this is, Tourette is a disorder that people can develop or be born with, in which they have involuntary tics or movements of their arms or their voice. Sometimes even they say things that they don't have control over. So this story is going to explain to you what Tourette's is and tell you a little story about a little boy who had to learn how to cope with some of the difficulties that he had with this syndrome. So I'd like for you to turn to the question page. It's actually on page 21. And we are going to preview the questions and highlight the important information. I just need you to follow along with me. Number 1. What is Tourette syndrome, or TS? It's called, refer to that in the story. Describe what happens when someone has TS. So I want you to highlight what is Tourette syndrome, and then I want you to highlight describe what happens when someone has TS. I also want you to write a number 1 and a number 2, because this is a 2-part question, so it's out of 2 points. So if you don't answer all parts of this question, you will lose some points. So make sure you're answering both parts of the question. Number 2, what are 2 of the kinds of tics that Nick suffers from? I want you to highlight 2 of the kinds of tics Nick suffers from. I also want you to underline or circle the word 2. And even if you wanted to put a number 1 and a number 2 to make sure you answer both parts. There are 2 different kinds of tics that he has, and what are they? Number 3. Why did Nick think his classmates didn't want to have anything to do with him? I want you to highlight didn't want anything to do with him. Nick thought that for a reason. It may not have been true, but that's how he felt. Why did he think that? Number 4, in the story, Nick said he could feel his classmates' fear begin to disappear. What do you think this means? I want you to highlight what do you think this means. I want you to highlight feel his classmates' fear begin to disappear. This has quotation marks, and that means that you will find that exact sentence in the passage. What did that mean? Why did he say that? How are his classmates starting to feel? And number 5, why did Nick think things were going to get better after Jeff's phone call? Please highlight Nick thinks things are going to get better after Jeff's phone call. There's a phone call with Jeff, and Nick felt a lot better after that phone call. Why? So what you need to do now is you need to turn back to the front of the passage. Starts back on page 19. You need to read the passage, highlight your proof, underline your proof, and then you can turn this recording back on and listen to the questions being read aloud again. As always, if you have questions, please raise your hand and I can come help you. Also, you can stay at the computer with your clipboard and work here, or you can go back to a desk and work at your desk quietly. Good luck.